I am really high on the Raiders this year. I think that this team has the possibility of shocking a lot of us and maybe sneaking into the playoffs as a 7th or 6th seed. But they do have an alarming flaw on defense that a lot of the NFL's best quarterbacks are going to be able to exploit when they go up against this Raiders defense this year. Their defensive line, without a doubt, is the strength of this unit. You got Maxx Crosby. Hopefully you get a healthy Christian Wilkins back at some point. And when that happens, you're going to have a downright nasty pass rush. Nobody already can stop Maxx Crosby. Can you imagine the kind of damage that he'll do when teams also have to worry about Christian Wilkins and how they're going to be able to complement each other? Because you're going to have to double team both of these guys. So that's going to make the Raiders pass rush really formidable this season. But outside of their defensive line, their linebacker unit is a little bit iffy, and their secondary is really alarming, especially with what they have at cornerback right now. Darien Porter is expected to start at one of those two cornerback spots for them. He was a day 2 selection out of Iowa State, and he essentially is going to be Pete Carroll's new Tariq Woolen. And if you don't know who Tariq Woolen is, he started his college career as a wide receiver, and then in his final season, he converted to a corner. He had a really good season. He got drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, and he ended up having an outstanding rookie season for Pete Carroll a few years ago, even though he didn't have that much experience playing the position, because he was a good scheme fit due to his athleticism, his ball skills, and that's the exact same way that Darien Porter is going to be able to have a really productive rookie season for Pete Carroll, because he's just like Tariq Woolen. He's really long, rangy, has great ball skills, and he's just an out-of-this-world athlete. And he only started 1 year in college football during his 6th season. So like Tariq Woolen, he doesn't have a lot of experience playing this position. He still has a lot to learn playing cornerback. He's very raw. But with the kind of cover 3 scheme that Pete Carroll likes to run, it gets the most out of cornerbacks that have these kinds of traits that are just freak athletes and are very long. This is Pete Carroll's ideal corner. But outside of Darien Porter, the rest of this cornerback room looks really concerning. You sign Eric Stokes in free agency, who's injury prone, and when he's on the field, he's mildly inconsistent. But from an athleticism standpoint, he's perfect for what Pete Carroll wants out of his starting outside corner. He's fast, very agile, also has pretty good length as well. So if Eric Stokes is able to turn his career around with the Raiders, it's because of the influence of Pete Carroll and plugging him into this system. But you're taking a flyer on the guy that was a former high draft pick and didn't really do all that well in Green Bay. So you pretty much are just throwing shit on the walls, and you're hoping that it's able to stick with the signing of Eric Stokes. And the same thing can be said with the Raiders slot cornerback position right now. You lost Nate Hobbs in free agency, and Nate Hobbs was one of my favorite cornerbacks in the league to watch. He was solid in coverage, but he was really good against the run. And right now, Darnay Holmes is expected to replace him in that slot cornerback role as the starter. Darnay Holmes has been in the NFL for a while. He's been a career backup for the majority of his career, so we'll see if he does end up winning that job, how good he will be. Safety isn't as bad as what corner is, because you got 2 really solid safeties. You got Isaiah Palomau, who comes back for another season with the Raiders. He was pretty decent last year. 57 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 5 pass breakups. He should be pretty solid. He could improve under Pete Carroll's tutelage as well. Then you signed Jeremy Chinn in free agency. He was one of the more underrated free agency signings that the Raiders made, because Jeremy Chinn is coming off a great season that he had in Washington. And what makes Jeremy Chinn such a great player is that he brings a lot of versatility to your defense. He can play safety. You can line him up as a nickel or dime linebacker. If you want him playing closer to the line of scrimmage, the guard tight ends, running backs out of the backfield. He's also really good in run support. But you also can play Jeremy Chin as slot cornerback if need be. Now, he's not as good in coverage for what you would want a slot cornerback to be, but if you want to play him a little bit in that role, he can do pretty good as well with his skill set. But the Raiders secondary overall, it's just a huge flaw that is going to be easy pickings for any of the quarterbacks that they played this year, especially with them being in the division with Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, and Justin Herbert. They're going to be licking their chops when they see this Raiders secondary, unless they can get a healthy Christian Wilkins to pair up with Maxx Crosby. That's the only way this secondary is going to have a chance of being able to overcome the flaws that they have in certain areas. Because when you got a good pass rush, you don't really have to worry about the guys that you have playing cornerback, because the pass rush isn't going to allow the quarterback to have that much time to throw the football anyway. But secondary definitely is a really big flaw that the Raiders weren't able to really fully address this offseason, and we'll see how this will impact their performance this upcoming year.